therapy to know how to help people spiritually. I think we have a spiritual crisis that people are not connecting with something bigger than themselves. And when they do connect with something bigger than themselves, it makes major changes in their life. I'll give a 30-second bio, which will sound ridiculous, but I'll allow you know that I've interviewed over 100 spiritual leaders for my podcast, Awareness Explorers, and books. I also lived with a spiritual teacher in a spiritual community for 26 years and have meditated at least an hour a day for the last 50 years. Have spent some time in a Buddhist monastery, a Hindu monastery, a Christian monastery, and I could go on, but you get the drift. A lot of experience with a lot of different approaches. And if you want to know more about that and my favorite methods and ideas, I did write a book called The Enlightenment Project that I think is quite good. Anyways, more important than that is, can I say something that's actually useful to you and your clients? And I have a simplified model for how to do that, which I want to talk about, and then maybe even do a demo with all of you. A table needs 4 legs of about equal length to be stable. I'll call that our spiritual table. So people have a lot of different ideas of what spirituality is. So I'm going to give you my idea as to how you can, in a way, measure a person's spiritual growth, and a simplified model for how to move them forward, including you and me. So I like to think that spirituality consists of 4 legs, and one leg I'll call your ability to tap into love. And I hope I haven't shocked any of you with that one. Obviously, love is important to being a human being, and most religions have put it at the center of their teachings. And of course, I'm talking about being able to tap into your feelings of love and compassion for other people, including yourself, and within yourself. So, it's not about falling in love, it's can you access the frequency of love within yourself. Another aspect is, and these 4 aspects can go together, but they often don't go together. I know people who are very able to love other people, and they have no inner peace whatsoever. They're anxious all the time, but they can feel love towards people. And the opposite's true as well. So the second ingredient leg is inner peace. And while I talk about these 4 things, I want you to measure your own legs on a 1 to 10 scale. 10 being, like, I'd say that Dalai Lama has inner peace. All his friends and family were tortured because of him. He left his country, etc., etc. Happiest guy I'd ever met. That's a lot of inner peace, meaning, the crap's hitting the fan, but he still feels peaceful. That's a 10. A 1 is you're sipping margaritas on the beach on vacation and you're worried about everything. That's a 1. So where are you on the inner peace scale? Just, come up with a number that feels like it fits. Where are you on the inner love scale? Meaning, are you basically judgmental of people and think of what's wrong with them? Think of your partner if you have one. Or are you just kind of very accepting, very loving? That can shift a lot, but where are you now? Another leg, which I'd like you to rate on the 1 to 10 scale, is what I call curiosity. Virtually all the spiritual leaders I've ever met are incredibly curious. They're just fascinated and looking into things and curious. And most people are not very curious. They're not that interested in learning new stuff. If you spend time with them, they won't ask you questions about you because they're not curious. But I think this is an important ingredient for learning, an important ingredient for what I call spiritual growth, is that you are curious and open to new learning. And once again, that ranges from 1 to 10. Your average 4-year-old is probably a 10. They're saying, why is the sky blue? What happens after we die? Why does this happen? Most adults lose that, but I think it's a very important ingredient for personal and spiritual growth. And you can rate that level on for yourself and for your clients, of course. And last but not least, I'll call it self-awareness and or awareness of your blind spots. And once again, this can be a totally independent leg. I've known people who have incredible inner peace and love, and yet they don't know themselves at all, which then creates problems because they get into all kinds of thorny blind spot shadow issues. And so self-awareness is knowing your faults, admitting them, seeing them, not being defensive about them. And that is a skill and one of the ingredients to, in my opinion, spiritual growth and evolution. Unfortunately, that one tends to be downplayed a lot. And yet, in some ways, I think it's the most important one, because if you have blind spots that you're not aware of, they eventually come back to bite you somehow. So these are 4, in a way, separate skills that people can be good at, bad at, or somewhere in between. But the goal is to always be increasing each of these legs, especially the weak leg. And you've heard me talk about this before, that any weak leg is going to have an outsized impact in a person's life. And part of our job as an MDMA facilitator is to find out what somebody's weak leg is, and rising tide lifts all boats. So you can ask these questions to your clients, or you can get a sense of it because they may not have any self-awareness. They may rate them. I was working with somebody last week. I asked him how much inner peace he had, and he said a lot of inner peace. Well, he's coming to me for severe anxiety and panic attacks. So I don't know what he means by inner peace, but it certainly was not what I meant. So people don't necessarily know how to rate themselves very accurately this way. You may actually, just knowing them for an hour, have a better sense of where their weak leg is. So that's one model that can be useful to know where to work, because helping somebody open their heart is different than helping them find inner peace, which is different than helping them be curious and open to learning, which is different than knowing oneself. And for better or worse, you can kind of only teach up to the level you're at. So if you have a lot of inner peace, you can probably help people with inner peace. If you don't, maybe not. So I always encourage facilitators to work on their weak leg as well. So that's one model. Another model that's helpful to think about in spiritual growth is, how invested are people in their story? Now, everybody has a story in their head about what's going on and who they are. And for most people, it's a self-pity story. It's a poor me story. That's somewhere there that is kind of like weighing them down like a bag of bricks. Now, you could think in your own life, you know, do you have some story going on here that is kind of in the background most of the time? I'll tell you some of the popular stories, and you might have many of them, but usually there's one that's very predominant. Uh, and in a way, you can call these stories, I can't be fully blissful because. I can't be fully blissful because I don't have enough money. I can't be fully blissful because I have this health issue. I can't be fully blissful because I was raped when I was 18. I can't be fully blissful because the political situation. I can't be fully blissful because there's global warming happening. I can't be fully blissful because my partner is sometimes mean to me. I can't be fully blissful because it can go on and on. There's an endless variety. And I'm not saying that these stories don't cause suffering and that there isn't a real issue here. But people attach to these stories and they keep them going in their head, which blocks out a lot of peace, joy, curiosity, and self-awareness. Now, the reality is that in any moment, you could leave your story behind. Or in any moment, you can have your story be running. You could be, on the beach in a beautiful place, feeling self-pity because of global warming. Or because when you were 20, something happened to you that you considered traumatic. And people carry their story, but they don't know how to let go of their story. So these stories accumulate, which makes people feel, kind of brings their vibration down, makes them heavy, makes it hard to feel inner peace. And we're not taught how to let go of a story. In fact, we're not taught how to let go of anything, really. Which is kind of funny because the way I would summarize spirituality is the art of letting go. Letting go of your story, letting go of your identification with your story, letting go of the future, letting go of the past, and being right here, right now. That's what enlightenment is, without your story. When I talked to Adyashanti, a spiritual teacher from America, he said, enlightenment is you without your story. Just being right here, right now, fully present, you are awareness. And when you stop identifying so much with this fictitious character that has all these stories, if you could let all that go, you would be enlightened. Of course, easier said than done, but letting go is also a skill. And have you noticed that the universe is more than generous in giving us opportunities to let go? Meaning, the universe, people are always throwing a bunch of crap our way. And we can either resist or allow. Adyashanti also said, one step to enlightenment, stop resisting what is. But people have all these beliefs and ideas, and I have to go to church this much, or I have to do this, and I have to clear out all my trauma from age 11, and all these ideas before they can feel inner peace. None of that's necessary. Sometimes it's useful, but more useful is giving people a taste of just letting go of their story for a moment and being here, because I'll call that presence. Presence shouldn't be that far away. First of all, it's always now. How convenient. Second, it's just letting go of everything blocking you from being fully here. Now, there's levels of being here, like kind of being here. And then there's a rabbit hole going down being here. Now, if you go down the rabbit hole of being here enough, you notice that you let go of your personality and you're just awareness. As you go down the rabbit hole of awareness, there's levels. First level is you feel kind of peaceful. Second level is you feel kind of blissful. Third level, you feel infinite. And fourth level, you're one with everything and the whole world kind of dissolves. Now, a lot of people have touched those experiences through psychedelics, but they don't realize that there's practical exercises you can do to move in those directions. And I talked about some of them in the course, like the Sedona method. I have a lot of the methods in my book, The Enlightenment Project. But most of the people we're working with aren't that sophisticated. So I like to use really simple methods because I find that most people don't use methods that take longer than a minute. So I have developed a lot of methods like that, and I can recommend where you can find more methods if you're interested in that. But first method is just simple awareness of completing this sentence. The story I'm running now is. The story I'm running now is. We're always running some story unless you're pure awareness and you're one with everything. The story I'm writing now is might be, oh, this is great information, or this guy is full of himself, or whatever it is. But there's always something there, or my toe hurts. And people compete with best stories. Oh, you think that's good? Well, so I'll tell you the story I'm writing now. 3 weeks ago, I went deaf in my left ear suddenly, which wasn't good because I'm 80% deaf in my right ear. So, I have to have a big speaker here to hear you. And I have to spend 3 hours a day in a hyperbaric chamber every day for 3 weeks, which I've been doing. I've done that last 2 weeks. And you can't move in the hyperbaric chamber, and you're just sitting there hoping that it helps the ears, of which they're not that hopeful. It's a good story. But in reality, most of my time the last 3 weeks is the same as always. I get up, I put on clothes, I drive, I sit in a chamber, I come home, I do this, I meditate. And if as long as I'm not going into that self-pity story, life's good. And in my workshops, I used to tell people I can tell you your future, I can predict your future. And somebody would say, who wants to know their future? And somebody would raise their hand. And I'd say, your future is you're either going to die in a surprise when you don't expect it, or you're going to get older slowly, lose your health, lose your ability to really hardly do anything, and then watch all your loved ones die, and then you're going to die. I don't mean to be pessimistic here. Nobody says that, but that so far no one's gone out of here alive. Now, if you see death as being really terrible, then that's not a good thing. But that's the situation. So, learning how to let go as all these things come at us, whether it be financial hardship or health hardship or relationship hardship, and putting some of your investment of time, energy, and money into these 4 skills: inner love, inner peace, curiosity, and self-awareness is a good idea. Being that the future is 100% assured. Either you're going to die quickly or you're going to die a slow, painful death while everybody around you, is dying. So it's important to not get stuck in these stories, and to realize that there's an incredible amount of joy and love and peace and connection in life if you're not caught up in thinking about your self-pity story, which is the default of the mind. That's not your problem or my problem. That's how minds work. That's got us to this level of survival. That's what minds do. If you're completely identified with your mind and all the stupid things it says, then life won't be that good. And you'll miss out on the love, the peace, the curiosity, and the self-knowledge. So knowing what your story is, and then saying, here's a very simple Sedona method. Can I step out of my story for 20 seconds and just be here? It's actually a challenge. Can you step out of your story for 20 seconds and just be here? I mean, sometimes you need a good story, but you don't need it 24/7. And, Ram Dass would call that being here now. And it's a good thing to practice for yourself and for your clients. I'm going to go into a couple more ways of doing that. But there's a couple stories I find people coming to me and probably you have that are particularly detrimental. And it's good to be aware of those stories and challenge them. One is the magic bullet story. I'll go to this one MDMA person, have a session, and my entire life will be different afterwards, despite me not having to do anything ever. That's a very damaging story. Now, I get a lot of clients that have major breakthroughs in their sessions, but still, they need to do some different actions afterwards, or it won't maintain. Luckily, we don't have that story about our physical bodies. We don't say, well, I worked out 7 years ago. Why am I having to do it again? No, you got to work out a couple times a week if you want to stay in shape. If you want to stay in spiritual shape, you might have to work out every day for a little bit. And not everybody knows that. So that's a story it's important to attend to. Another story is, as soon as I really get to the bottom and really experience all my deep trauma, then I'll be happy. Also not true. And if people believe that, that can keep them from doing the things that they need to move their life forward. So unearthing trauma, I don't know, studies show that it has mixed results. Makes some people happier, makes some people miserable. MDMA certainly seems to help reduce the symptoms of trauma afterwards, if you do it right. That's good. But that's once again not a silver bullet. I believe that the key to success in every area involves 2 steps: doing the right thing and doing the right thing consistently. So if you want to make money, there's things that you do that have been shown to make money. 92% of the millionaires in America got there through real estate. So if you want to be a millionaire, get into real estate and do that consistently. You want to have a good relationship? Do what they say leads to good relationships. Tell your mate what you love about them every day, if you can.
Password to get in.
Wait. I'm muting a couple of people that need to be muted. Tell people what you appreciate about them every day. Do that consistently. You want good health? 40% of Americans are obese. That's not even fat, that's obese. Most people know the right thing to do, they just can't do it consistently, exercise or eat well. But that's why I went a lot into the contract method, which people really resist because it forces them to be consistent. And I will challenge people. I say, well, you say you want to change, but you're not being consistent. In the 60s, they used to have these encounter groups where people would be kind of confronting each other. They'd be in a room for 5 days or 4 days or something, and they would be brutally honest and confront each other. We don't have a system now where that happens normally. I was fortunate. I lived with 20 people for 26 years where that was the main focus. Be brutally honest with each other. It's a very humbling experience, by the way. Um, but most people don't have that. And that's an ingredient. If you're not getting feedback, if people aren't getting feedback, it's very hard for them to see their blind spots. It's very hard to feel the pain of those blind spots if everybody's just being nice with each other. So one of the things I do in my sessions is I'm often pretty confrontive to people. And the great thing is on MDMA, people are receptive. So that's something that you can do. The one last story that I find very damaging to people is people think that peace or spiritual connection is a long road away. Like you got to meditate for 20 years or do this or that. No, peace is one letting go of your story away and just being here, feeling the sensations of your body, seeing things as if for the first time, maybe feeling your own heart. It's really simple. But if you have complex stories in your head, you can miss it. So in the training, I talked a lot about this thing called love training, in which there were 20 questions to help people find out how they access inner peace and love. Because the way that you do it and the way I do it might be totally different, but they're both valid. So, there's questions like, what songs move your heart? What movies move your heart? One of my favorite methods is people generally focus on the part of their body that is most painful or doesn't feel the best. So I usually ask them, so how's your right elbow feel? Very few people complain about the right elbow. In fact, generally feels good. How's your right elbow? I hope it's good. And they say, oh, it feels good. I say, well, then feel the sensations of that, feel the warmth of that, feel the relaxation of it, or any other part of your body. And you can try this right now. Choose a part of your body that feels good, relaxed, and just sit with enjoying and focusing gently on that feeling of relaxation, maybe warmth, peace in that part of your body. And allow yourself to even feel a little bit of gratitude for that part of your body feeling good. The sensations. Now try tensing that part of your body for like 5 seconds. Make it really tense, whatever part of your body you're focusing on. 4, 3, 2, 1. Take a deep breath. And relax your breath and relax that part of your body and just follow the sensations of warmth and opening and relaxation. That's a very simple exercise. Gets people out of a story into sensations, into something that feels good. I could go on and on about methods. If you want to actually, there's a lot of methods in the Enlightenment Project. My co-host in my podcast, Awareness Explorers, wrote what I thought was the best method book ever. Uh, it's called Awareness Games. I think you can get for $8 or $1 on Kindle. And he has like 80 methods for going beyond the mind and into presence. So there's no shortage, and you have your background, you know what works for you, but you want to use your curiosity to say, well, what helps my client to feel good, to feel peaceful, to feel loving, to feel curious. Before I started recording, I asked people, what question, if you could ask one question of a omniscient being, God, what question would it be? And that can bring up people's curiosity. What are you curious about? Because curiosity is one of those ingredients that leads to growth, that leads to new explorations. A lot of people, their best way of getting in touch with love, I have found, is through their pets. Because people have baggage with their partners. But very few people go, oh, my goddamn dog, doing that again. No, the people don't do that. They have a very unconditional, loving relationship with their pets. So I sometimes have them feel the love for their pets and then describe in detail what love feels like to them, so that when they listen to the recording, they have a description of the target. They go, oh, for me, love is this waves of energy emanating from the middle of my chest, and it feels like bright blue, and it has a whooshing sound. People are very specific if you let them. And each person very different in their description. But one of the ways people tap into these higher states is by being in those higher states and then describing them in as much detail as possible. And you can do that for yourself next time you're high. Say, okay, I want to describe this in as much detail. What sensations am I having? What thoughts am I having? What does it feel like energetically? What if this were a color, what color would it be? Anything that you can do can help you then get back to that place. So that's a lot of different stuff at you, but really we're trying to help people let go of their baggage and find these little hacks. A lot of people don't even really know this experience until they try MDMA and they go, oh my God, I can just be here and feel good. That's a great gift. And it's a great honor that we get to, in a way, be a midwife for this spiritual rebirth. Not that people haven't had these experiences before, but every time we experience it, it's a rebirth. And then with contract technique, the integration technique, how to keep their best ideas and your best ideas going, being consistent in the future. And there's probably no greater gift you can give people than helping them tap into their own peace, love, curiosity, and awareness. So I'm going to take some questions on anything that I just said. I'm going to actually stop the recording for now.